It's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting of the New London Select Board to order. This meeting is being held to allow us to discuss our positions on various warrant articles that will be voted on at town meeting on Wednesday, March 13th. We get questions from friends and neighbors, and we read letters to the editor that suggest to us that there is some confusion over what we as selectmen are trying to accomplish. The discussion we have at this meeting will hopefully clarify our positions and the reasons why we support or don't support a particular article. Let's start with Article 3. Okay, Bill, would you like to opine on this?
Sure. I think we've had previous discussion about Article 3, and the two key points to me are A, the property's not for sale, and B, it's a site that the police station police staff is not interested in occupying at this point. So those two things to me seem to be overwhelming.
Can you please speak into the microphone?
I'm trying to. Should I start over? Okay. So there seem to be two things about Article 3 that are showstoppers for me, and we've discussed these in previous meetings. One is that the owner of the property has indicated that it's not for sale, and therefore it seems to me poor use of town funds to be and time to be chasing a property that's not on the market. And second of all, this is a site that has had many discussions with the police staff, and they've indicated that they do not believe that it will solve their facility needs.
Okay. BB, do you want to add anything?
Just same conversation that I've had before is, again, as Bill said, property's not for sale, and there's no plan for the property, even if we were to buy it currently. So, and perhaps if after all of this work is done with Colliers, and there's more conversation about the town acquiring that property for something else for future use, then we can always come back again and talk to Mary Ann about it at a later date. But I think right now, that $900,000 could be utilized in other ways, and also that house is currently being used for housing, which we so desperately need in this town, and I'd like it to stay that way.
Okay. I don't have anything else to add to that.
I might also just add that if we were to acquire the house, we would then somehow have to also appropriate funds to take care of the house, because there's nothing worse than an empty property, and there's no provision to take care of that property for the short term or the long term.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're good. Okay, Article 4, keeping the PD at Bucher and not spending any money in fiscal year 2025. BB, did you want to address that one?
Well, so Kim and I had a call today with Tony at Colliers. It was a good call. It cleared up for me some questions that I had about what the output is going to be from them, and a bit of a timeline. We talked a little bit about the better communication with people in town about the project. He said there's going to be 3 particular outputs from the work that they do once they've done the RFP. They have 3 responses to the RFP for architects and engineers or whatever they are. And I guess now it's up to us to choose one of those 3 to move forward. And what those folks will do are 3 things. They're going to update the feasibility study on the Bucher building that was done by Dennis Myers. Since that report was initially done, that now some time has passed where some building codes have changed, policing standards have changed. So this update will show, again, what the building can support, what structural improvements would be needed, site work, and things that would have to be done because of the historical nature of the building. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and he used this term, which probably some of you in the audience know that I did, is blue sky thinking. If we didn't have to force patrol, dispatch, detention into the areas that they're in. How would that look in a floor plan that would flow efficiently for them? You know, whereas he's described it, the police officer comes to work, parks their car, walks in, gets into their uniform, walks out here, out the door into the cruiser, and off they go to work. It's that workflow kind of planning, and also how the building would serve the public, and what would that look like, so that they would come up with a sort of boilerplate plan. And then step 3 would be using that blue sky thinking, applying it to the town assessor's map, and geographically two-axis thinking. These are notes that I was typing as he was talking. Would it fit onto any of those sites that have been identified through the criteria selection spreadsheet that was passed out at that last meeting, without dealing with a lot of extra expenses, right? So, did I cover that, Kim, correctly? So, those are the outputs. So we talked a lot today also about the best way to communicate with people in town, right? So we talked about some ideas of a monthly call-in time with Tony, fireside chat with Tony, where anybody could just call in and ask him questions, and he might have a different topic for each monthly meeting, like mechanical engineering or electrical engineering for the Bucher building. How is it laid out? What does the police department need? You know, so anybody can just dial in and ask questions. And he talked about how that makes people more comfortable, and instead of having to sit next to their neighbors in a room and not feel comfortable with asking certain questions. We talked about using social media. We talked about just writing articles. I also asked him if he would be willing to attend the town meeting this year if any questions popped up, and he said he'd be happy to do that. So I said I would run it by the both of you tonight. And what else? Open up the communications channel. I think that was it from our conversation. So I also went back and listened to the recording from last year's town meeting to try to remember. I mean, I got the feeling that people were asking for more details before buying a piece of property. What is the plan for that property? What are the cost estimates and things like that? So I went back and listened to the recording today, and that was pretty much how I heard it. Bob Bowers spoke, Bob Lyons spoke, Colin Beasley, Peter Stanley, John Cannon. I took notes from everything that they said during the meeting, and that, to me, also a concern about moving the building to a different location. Still, you know, that's still an issue. Obviously, there's still a chunk of people that don't want to see it moved. But I think a big piece of it is that unknown of what the cost will be. And that's what I feel like we're trying to do here. So my feeling is, you know, I appreciate John's letter to the editor in the Intertown Record and his comments about if you vote yes, then you believe this, and if you vote no, you believe that. And I actually disagree with him, and I think if you vote no on Article 4, you could just be merely just saying, I want more information before I make an informed decision on what we should do with the police station. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. It has been suggested to me that my mind has been made up with regard to moving the police department. And I would say that when we hired Harriman in 2018, I was really hopeful that they would look at our current location and say, these are the things you can do that will make it safe and adequate for the police officers. And when they did not come up with that recommendation, and basically they said you need a different site, and all of the engineering studies we've had since then have really said there's still issues with it even if they do stay here, and it will cost a great deal of money to keep the police where they are. I would hope that the citizens of this town respect and appreciate the officers of the New London Police Department enough to give them a facility that is adequate and safe to meet their needs. And I would suggest also that people who want to keep the police right where they are have their minds made up. So we have tried to answer all the questions, and I think Colliers, this engineering firm, will do that. Will give us a design, will say what should happen in the future, and a cost estimate, and that's what we need. So that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to do something that is not what I have heard from a majority of the citizens of this town that they want. They want to give the police a facility that is safe and adequate for them. Okay? Does anyone wish to make a comment? Go ahead, Bill.
So to me, you've just used the most important term, which is great deal of money. And I think in combination with what Bibi was saying a few minutes ago, one of the things that I think we've all heard is that we need at this point to get some real dollars and cents down on a piece of paper. And the piecemeal approach that we've been taking since the Harriman study of, first of all, finding a site, then doing that part, obviously has not been satisfactory. And whether we stay in this site in the long run, as Tony apparently was saying, they're looking at that, or continue to look at different sites, the only way that we're going to, I think, succeed in getting closure on this issue of the town is if we have a full-blown plan, which is why I think we started this fall and are continuing to work all the way through to the town meeting a year from now, where we'll have our facts and figures down pat by an independent party who has no skin in this game at all. And whether we end up doing something next door or someplace else, we're talking about, quote, a great deal of money, and it deserves having the continued work be done before we say yes or no.
Okay, thanks, Bill. All right, Bob, did you want to say something?
Bob Lyon, New London. Yeah, a couple of thoughts. One, I think the comment was made that even if that house next to the police station was for sale, we'd need money to maintain it, we'd have to put money into it. That's the comment that I had heard. Likewise, if we move the police station from where it is now and we have an empty building and we're saying it's not fit right now, money's going to have to go into that building as well. So I think we need to keep that balanced. It works in both ways, right? Second thing is, I think we look at this a little bit differently. I don't think that if you want to keep the police station where it is, you're disrespecting the police. I think everyone here in this town respects the police. I think people are looking for a reasonable solution, and I think you're right. I think the missing piece is how much is this going to cost, and what is the tax implication? So we already know our water taxes are going to be going up. I just heard yesterday that our tax rate is going up by 60 cents, so my taxes should go up by $400 next year, on top of the water tax. So what is going to be the solution in terms of the police station? I mean, last year we were talking in rough terms, without the Collier input, we were talking about, $8 to $10 to $14 million all in. And we were talking, I'll throw out a number, 3 to 4 for a renovation. Loose numbers, but we're still coming out 3 to 4-fold higher for a new police station. That's going to have an impact on taxes. And again, I can't give you that number, what the tax increase is going to be, but we're looking at the water work on Main Street. We're looking at a new police station. There's been talk about a new roof for the library, and I'm sure other things are going to come up as well. I won't even get into the water situation, which has been quoted at $11 to $24 million, should we need that. And I'm told, since we're such a rich town, that we can't expect to get state grants because we just make too much money here. So that would be borne, I would guess, by the people in the water precinct. So I think it just seems to me to be better if we keep things balanced. There's pros and cons on each side. So that's where I come out. But certainly everybody here respects the police. A question, so I think the way the warrant is written is that we would stop spending money, but don't we have an existing contract with Collier that we have to pay?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's,
So that's already been set. So that's not spending new money because it's already signed. So we have to spend that. So to your point, Janet, I think if they finish that work and if it's completed, we will get that dollar amount. They will come up with a site and with a dollar amount. I don't see that as being separate from voting on whether or not to move the police station. I mean, it's not even on the warrant to do anything about a new police station. So we could vote, it's conceivable, the town could vote not to move the police station. We get that data in, the cost, I don't know when it comes in, I'll make up a date, it comes in June, and next year at our next year's meeting, we say, hey, now we've got the meeting, let's revisit that. I mean, that's certainly possible as well, correct?
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right.
So I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we're
Yep.
thinking about that the same
are.
way. So
Yes, we are.
again, I think everybody's looking at what would be best for the community, and people feel differently about it, and I think we have to keep that economic piece in line, especially when we're looking down the road to potentially really devastating tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
May I
Okay.
speak to?
Go ahead.
So, Bob, I have two comments to make to you. First of all, the $40,000 takes us to a certain point. It's not going to take us to the amount of data and specific information that I think BB is referring to from the last town meeting that people want. It's not going to include drawings. It's not going to include the engineering work to dig holes on a potential new site and so on. And so if the work is completed with the $40,000, we will still have a lot of information missing, and I think it would be a shame for us to put that off for yet another year. I've had some people come up to me and say, we've been looking at this thing for 10 years. We should have done this 10 years ago. I said, amen. I said, but the cost has gone up a lot since then. They said, yes, it has. I guess we can't afford it. And my answer to that is, you won't be able to afford it even more 10 years from now. And inevitably, for the future of this town, at some point, we're going to have to build some new facilities. And we might as well get on with that. Second comment I would just like to make is, I would hope that as a Board of Selectmen and as citizens considering these issues, we would take these numbers that the water precinct is throwing around and stop using them as an excuse for not doing things in the town. As you know, I've spent a lot of time with the water precinct, and some period of time after we get through this town meeting, I'm going to have some things to say about water, but I think we've way overstated the water issue at this point. And I think it's not responsible for us to keep throwing around those numbers. I know where they came from, so I don't mean that you're throwing them around, but any of us throwing them around, because I think yes, we're going to pay for the water main, which at least last week was 48 cents on the average house in the water precinct. Not, again, the water precinct is less than half of the town, so we need to keep ourselves aware of that, and that's inevitably something that we're paying for because we chose to be on the water precinct as opposed to digging our wells. Wells people have a different cost, but I think it's important for us to not keep talking about the water problem at this point, because I don't think we have a water problem.
So
I'll say a lot more about that after town meeting.
So I'll look forward to that after the meeting. So I'm just going by, as you know, what Ken Jakes told us in his grand presentation that night over here. And again, he's the leader of the water precinct. That's the data point that I'm going with. Maybe you have great information. I'm sure you do. But that's the number that he threw out. And people, they latch onto that. And nobody's saying we're going to spend it tomorrow or next month or even in the next 10 years. But if our capacity, I'm not going to get into the whys and the wherefores, we've already discussed it, but that's the only number that's been put out. If you have a different number, I mean, it'd be great to hear it.
Mr. Jakes is a great presenter of what he's trying to accomplish, but I think he also has his own agenda, and his agenda, as I understand it from talking to him, is actually not to think that we're going to end up spending this amount of money. The last time he said anything, he said, not in my lifetime, meaning his. He's younger than I am, so.
Okay. So I think maybe that's a clear...
No,
and that's fine. I'm not
for
going to...
all of us, just for me too, because I'm
Sure,
guilty of the
sure.
same thing.
And I'm not going to contest that, but I think since you bring that up, it would be good to get some clarification. I mean, it's too bad he's not here tonight to have a rebuttal with what you just said. It's hard to judge what he said, then you're saying he didn't mean it, he said something different. I mean, where does that end up as a citizen?
After we get through the town meeting and into the new season, I'm going to have some things to say about water in general, but that just clouds the issues here, and I'd be happy to sit and talk to Ken more about it. I talk to him every month, but I think we've taken the water situation and blown it way out of proportion. It's not in the same category as a library roof or a roof on the academy building or a fire station extension or a police station. It's a different issue. It's a different political body with its own agenda at times. That's all.
And
I just felt compelled to say that.
I can't argue with you on that. And my only point was it would be great to have you and him in front of us so we could hear the debate and listen to the different options, because we had him in isolation, now we have you, we have opposing points of view. The question is, who do you believe, right?
I hope we will have that opportunity
Perfect.
in
Great.
the new year, but there are many things that we are trying to accomplish now, and I think we've overextended our discussion about the non-water main part of.
Okay, fair enough. I don't want to
water.
belabor that. Just one other point, if I can respond to your first
Sure.
point. So we have a contract with Colliers, we're paying them, or we've paid them $40,000. I get it that there's more work that they'd want to do that we haven't paid for, and if the town voted not to proceed, not to move it, that work would stop because we haven't paid for that. So my question is, what exactly will we have from Collier after they've spent the $40,000? And I don't need architectural renderings. I just need like a ballpark cost. Were the original estimates of 10 to 14, is that in the ballpark? And they can say, give or take 2 million, it's in the ballpark. It's going to cost 3 to 4 times a renovation, or it's not. They're going to be equal. A renovation would be equal. So I think it's a question. What can we expect when Collier's done with this first phase of their operation?
Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Kim?
Colliers is the project manager. Their job has been to put all of this together, so to speak. They got the information out to put an RFP out to architects, to architects to respond to the RFP, to do the design, concept plan, budgeting for this project, for wherever the police station would be, or if it would be here. The architect that's selected eventually will come to town, look at various spots, look at this building. Colliers will continue. The $40,000 we've paid them will continue on to the next phases. They will work with this selected architect. Now, the money we don't have or won't have if this article passes is that phase. We will not be able to select one of the architects from the RFP to actually get those numbers to bring to town meeting, to be able to go to town meeting March of 2025. And actually, it would be all summer. As BB pointed out, there's going to be a lot of citizen input. Tony, the person from Colliers, would be having a, as you called it, fireside chat kind of thing, where people would be on Zoom meetings, be able to talk to him, ask him questions. We need to get support. We need to get citizens that will agree to help the selectmen with this and help the architect that's selected. So if it's stopped, Colliers won't be able to continue out on their $40,000 contract until we, hopefully someday, get to that.
That's helpful, thank you. But my last point, then I'm going to sit down and let somebody else speak. So Colliers, I was here when they first presented. They've done this, 10, 12, 15, 20 police stations they've built around New England, the country, whatever. I would think they could look at, 10,000 square foot building, we're looking at New London and New Hampshire. They could eyeball that in 5 seconds and say, well, this is going to cost you around 12 to 15. And I think that's what we're looking for. I don't need to see what the building's going to look like. I honestly don't. I just need to know what that dollar is amount, because my own personal view is, I don't want to keep seeing my taxes going up.
Yeah,
So
and
if you
some
ask me
people-
why do I vote a certain way, it's economic. I'm looking at a tax increase. It is. It's every year. So next year it's going to be $400 because of the rate increase. So where does it end? So to me, if you want to help me as a citizen, just ballpark it. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I'm sure they could. If you picked up the phone right now and called them, I bet they could tell you right now what that would cost.
They could, Bob.
I bet that, yeah. So
They
why don't
could.
we get that number for the town
And those
meeting?
numbers are, for what?
For the town meeting.
The selectmen are not asking for anything at town meeting. so they don't have those.
But I just heard
because
somebody say before, we're going to try to have somebody speak at the town meeting, even have the guy Tony there. Why doesn't he tell the town
He
meeting?
can if he
If you ask the
attends.
question, yeah.
And that's going to be a question we need to ask him at the meeting, is what is your, based on your experience of putting up 20 different police stations,
Right.
what do you think this
Right.
is going to cost?
Right.
Within some,
Right.
within some statistical error
Right.
kind of thing. Okay, great.
Right.
That'd be great.
You know, Bob, you may only be interested in the financial piece of it, but a lot of people want to know what it's going to look like and where it's going to be. So those things, we need to answer all of those questions. And I should note that we have paid for him up to this point with ARPA funds, and we hope to use ARPA funds to pay for the rest of it. We already have that money from the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a grant, and it's from the government, and we have it, and we have to spend it by the end of this year. So we have a certain amount of money left,
Or we can
and,
send it back.
and if we don't use it, and we can use it for this specific purpose, then we'll be all set, and it won't cost the taxpayers any money.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
No. Okay,
Again, I appreciate there are a variety of different points of view. I can only speak to my own.
of course. No, and we appreciate that. Thank you. John, did you want to ask something?
John Wilson, sounds better. Yep. We want to thank the Selectmen, for the attention you've helped us bring to Article 4. I thank you very much, and tomorrow tonight you're doing it even more, and I appreciate it. We sincerely hope that a strong representative number of voters will attend town meeting, and with their vote give clear guidance. And I want to emphasize guidance, because somehow the conversation tends to go like we're talking more than that. To the Selectmen regarding the disposition of the police station. So just to be clear, BB, a yes vote says that the present location is what you want, for the police station is what you want. A no vote says that a new police station at another location is what you want, and you can do whatever you want to pursue it. I don't know if that's your first corollary to it or what, but any other interpretation of this vote would be contrary to what the petitioners of Article 4 were looking to obtain. Clear guidance for the Selectmen. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, John? On the wording of the Article 4, if you vote no, let me find it, not spend more town resources exploring, planning for, or designing a new police station. Definition of resources in your mind, is that money, or is that employees' time, or is that selectmen's time as well, or is it just money?
No, the first three.
That was clear.
Thank you.
I think that's a great point. I think I see where you were going with the follow-up. So, if it's true that all of that money that would go to Collier is through a grant from the state or the federal government, and it's not coming out of the town budget, is that something, I'm trying to think of bear with me on the scenario. It gets voted yes, people want it to stay where it is, but since the money's coming from a grant and not the town, couldn't that work continue? So I don't know if it's in the wording of the document or how it's written, but I see that as a possible scenario, because it's not town money. It doesn't affect our budget, I think.
Yeah, no, I think, however the vote goes, that's the indication we'll have, yeah. We're not going to
Yeah.
try to find a backdoor
No.
to do this.
Yeah, because as John's right, we will take it as guidance.
Sure. Colin, did you want to say something?
Thank you. Good evening, Colin Beasley. It's my understanding that ARPA funds during the budgeting process were 100% allocated, because the Budget Committee had talked about leveraging those ARPA funds to reduce the tax obligations in 2025. And before we got to that, the Select Board had a particular discussion and allocated them all out. So there is nothing after the 40,000.
No, the selectmen allocated the money to Colliers.
40,000.
And to,
Yeah.
no, that had already been decided. The remaining
The
The
remaining.
remaining ARPA funds, the selectmen committed to use by the Colliers project and safety upgrades and office upgrades at the Academy building.
Oh, that was a misunderstanding on my part. So when I heard Collier, I didn't infer that it was future Collier. Fascinating. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy Marascio, New London resident. I'm going to ask you to spend a little bit of money. I sat on the Police Study Commission, as you know. At the first meeting, the first thing we heard about was the lack of bulletproof glass here. I've heard it at several other meetings as well. Since the police are going to be here, would you consider spending money to bulletproof the glass?
Of course, I haven't, Chief Cobb hasn't approached us with a number or a desire to do that, so it hasn't come before us.
She has named it at several public meetings.
Okay, she hasn't come with a plan for it. Go ahead, Bill.
So recently, the selectmen made a tour of the new communications equipment, and during that informal tour, I asked her about this very same question, and she said that'll be forthcoming now that the work has been done, that what we're really talking about is the street side windows here. And she said now that the improvements to the communications rooms there had been completed, that she would be forthcoming in the new year with a proposal.
I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Oh,
I said I urge you to vote yes on that. Thank you.
yeah, we would, thank you. Yeah. Karen? Would you, yeah,
Gosh.
talk into the, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Karen Epstein. Nice to see everybody. And Bibi, if I heard you correctly in kind of your preliminary remarks in the, when you had made some notes after speaking to Tony, I believe.
Yep.
Did I hear correctly that it was kind of a blue sky vision, and then taking that blue sky and then finding kind of the footprint that best fit it?
That is how I understood it. Correct, right, Kim? Yes.
So the only thing
He describes it much better than I do,
Okay,
by the way.
thank you.
But, yes.
So the thing that comes to my mind when I hear blue sky is it's kind of like all-encompassing, and it can lend the impression, and I don't know if this is the case, that rather than giving kind of a strong direction as to the real needs, what we really see as the needs, as opposed to like, wow, wouldn't it be
Yeah,
great
an
to have
an
everything?
unconstrained- Right, if you had unlimited funds,
Right.
what to do with it?
So did he
Good
take the
question.
blue sky as being kind of like that, or was
That
there
is
more
a good
direction
question
given?
that I don't know the answer to, so maybe we go back to Tony and we ask him that question and we get back with the response to whoever's interested, because I totally understand what you're saying, and now that you've said it that way, I get it. I don't know if that's what he meant, or if he meant, the way he was talking about, if we didn't have to force certain efficiencies of the police department into existing space, what would be the ideal way to set up the most efficient police department? I don't think it was the gold-plated, right? But it's a really good question, and I think we should put that back to Tony.
Because we all have kind of constraints on
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
So I just would appreciate getting that insight. Thank you very much.
And
Okay.
Karen, I think also that when they're looking at the police facility, they're also going to be looking at what we can do and how much it's going to cost with Bucher once they vacate. And obviously, there are a number of things that we think we can do with that building, but we'll need a cost analysis of that. So when he talks about blue sky, I think that's part of blue sky, knowing what everything's going to cost.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Do we want to talk about the rest of the warrant articles, or Kim, do you have any recommendations on that?
Do we need to talk about what, if we're going to put something out to the public with our thoughts ahead of the town meeting?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should maybe put an ad in the Intertown Record and the Shopper indicating why we're in favor of using Colliers to do a holistic approach with regard to the police department.
Well, and I certainly want to, not just that, but also I want to, as Bob was suggesting, make sure that we ask people to attend the meeting, because I'll feel a lot better about the result of the vote if there's if there's good attendance than if it turns out to be, non-event. Now, given the topic, I'm quite sure we will get good attendance, but I think getting good attendance is important. The more people we have expressing their view through the vote, the better. Necessarily, I suspect the moderator will not allow this discussion to go on for hours. So in that regard, I think getting our views in a succinct way out on the beforehand to people is important, because as nice as this little group is, it's a dozen people, not the few hundred that I hope several hundred that will come to town meeting.
Okay, well then, I would suggest that we craft an ad that we would like to put in the Shopper and the Intertown, and send it by Kim.
Okay.
And she can give it to the rest of us. We can all submit our ideas
Okay.
to Kim.
That's okay. Okay.
Okay? Bob?
I'm just a bit confused. So to me, if it's ARPA funds?
Yep.
ARPA? ARPA funds are available, they need to be, and we still have money left over, that's kind of targeted for Colliers, and they need to be spent this year. I'm confused as to if the town votes yes, keep the police station where it is. I just heard that everything would stop. But we have granted funds, not from our budget, that we have to spend, that's already in line with Colliers. Why wouldn't that work continue, and you can come back the following year and say, hey, here's the number, it was only $6 million to do it, then it might change the whole vote. I don't understand why you wouldn't continue with that.
Because the article talks about spending town resources. Although it's a grant money, it's still town resources.
Oh, it's not the money part.
It's the money,
Is that
town resources.
how you intended it?
Even if somebody gave a gift, it's town resources.
Oh,
Doesn't
even
have
if
to
it's
be
a grant, it's a
It doesn't have
town
to be
res- oh,
budget,
okay,
it doesn't
my
have to be
okay.
tax dollars, it's
Gotcha.
town resources.
I looked at it as being off the budget. Okay, gotcha.
But nothing would stop the town from using the ARPA funds for looking at the Bucher building if the town said leave it at Bucher. Is that correct?
That's right, because the article has nothing to do with Bucher.
Okay.
Thanks, Colin, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, is there anything else we need to?
Oh, yeah, one more.
So,
Oh, hang on.
Hi, is this on?
Yeah.
I just want to,
You have
Maureen Conley,
Okay.
New London resident. I'm confused, and so if I'm confused, I imagine others would be as well. You're saying you have funds which have to be spent, but they're not tax generated, right? These are from a grant. I guess it's a grant.
Correct.
Maybe that should be put out, because I feel like I would feel more comfortable voting for, maybe looking for a different site if I knew that that money was, the exploration of that was not going to come from tax money. So when you make your message, somehow, because I'm just thinking, okay, what is this fund? What is this grant? How does that work?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, that's a good idea, to kind of describe what the ARPA funds
Right,
is.
yeah.
And I appreciate you standing up and saying that, because I have heard that from a few people along the way, that where are you getting this money from?
Right.
And,
I'm probably not that different than many people. I'm dipping in here. I'm trying to understand. I want to make, kind of attend as an informed citizen, but
Yeah,
it's hard to grasp it all. You guys are so acquainted with it.
Right, yeah.
thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Rich?
Wrong button, sorry. Rich Epstein. So, and I apologize if actually this was somewhat described and maybe I missed it. So I when I hear these discussions, and I always hear about the drawbacks of staying in the current location, but, you know, I have no doubt if we go to a completely different location, a much better police station could result with what people believe is going to be a lot more money. But I think and I don't know what's going to be produced. I think it'll be really important to really understand that, okay, what are we missing out by leaving it there? So we could say, okay, is it worth $10 million for those remaining things? I'm hoping that's one of the outgrowths that we'll be able to learn.
Absolutely. I think we all want to know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked to Tony about that a bit today, and he said there will be lots of conversations about the capabilities of this building. And he does this for his living every single day, dealing with building police stations, so he's hoping during those monthly sessions to answer all those types of questions or present it out for people to ask more questions of, this is what would have to be done in Bucher to fix all the electronics, all the electrical engineering so that all of their communications equipment can work correctly, right? Those types of things. So it's going to be a deep dive, for sure. He also sent me a document today. I'm not sure if this is the right one. An FAQ, an example of an FAQ that another town did, where, he says, I've heard every single question already 1 million times. So they're going to prepare that with us to circulate out as much as possible, just simple questions of why we're doing. I can't find, if I can find it, I'll send it to you, or or put it over here for anybody to look at. But here we go. 5 pages of why replace the existing, those kinds of things. Very succinct answers. So this is the kind of stuff that we really need, that we will get from Colliers for the money that we've already spent.
Thank you. So also maybe just a little more perspective, here we see, reading the Intertown, Newbury is reducing taxes. Meanwhile,
Actually,
That's not correct.
oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
kind of a misprint.
Yes.
You-
Did I hear it
Reporters
wrong?
make mistakes, that's all I'll say, Rich. Reporters make mistakes.
Okay, okay. Well, but as other people have said, I think, the money is, in where I look at it, is the biggest thing. And, here we have high inflation, but our tax rate is going up way higher than the rates of inflation. And that is even before we're going to have to pay for water. And if I don't know, I would vote for water more than police. And, we got roofs to pay for. So I think, we don't have separate money to give to the school versus the library. It's a big pill to swallow to see these numbers coming at us.
We're cognizant of that, and I think that's really why we want to do the due diligence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rich, we're all taxpayers. We're not looking to increase our tax. Who would like to see their taxes go up? Raise your hand. Seriously.
Get something good, you pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Cost to drive.
Yeah.
But I think we're all going to try to be as fiscally responsible as we can, because obviously we don't want to see our taxes get so out of whack that people don't want to move here. We can't get young people to live here. So, obviously that's why we're doing this whole approach to find out what it's going to cost.
Actually, you just brought up the people are pushing to be able to make New London more affordable. So thanks for pointing that part out.
Yeah.
All these things work against that.
Yeah.
But thank you for
Thank
letting me take a moment. Thanks.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Rich.
Can you correct the record on the Newberry 6%? What actually happened if that was a misprint?
My understanding from the town administrator is that her comment about the underspent 2023 budget was 6%. The reporter reported it as their 2024 budget was coming in under 6%. It's not coming in under, it's slightly up
It was just what was left over was 6%.
from 2023. Yep.
Okay, anything else we need to?
I assume at our next meeting, we'll actually do the mechanics of assigning different warrant
will,
articles to
and-
each of us.
The moderator will be in attendance as well.
Good. So speaking of the next meeting, BB's not going to be here physically. Can we perhaps go to a place where we can record and have her be present mechanically, or?
I can check with the Professional Development Center.
Okay. All right. Kim, is there any other business you wanted to bring up? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.